Hi everyone, welcome to this week's video. Probably not sitting in the best place because I've got the container garden behind me that needs a complete refresh. Maybe I'll get around to it on the weekend and I can show you next Friday. But for today, I'm going to show you how my onion crop is coming along. Now, for some of you who followed me along for a few years, you'll know that it's been a fail pretty much one year after another. But this year, it's a little bit different. I also want to show you what stage I'm at with my dahlia tubers and a few other things. So please sit back, relax for a few minutes and let's get into it now. The garden is full of life today. Oh my goodness, I see bees, butterflies, hoverflies. I even spotted the first blue-banded bee and I actually don't think I've seen one last year, so that has made my day. There's even lots of ants over here on the foxgloves, possibly going in to get some of that delicious sweet nectar. This is the celery, which is going to flower, but I'm not going to pull the plant out because I've noticed that there are a few ladybugs on it, tucked in amongst the flower buds and petals. Do you see the cabbage moth butterfly over here by the brassica? I don't know if they still lay eggs at this stage. Beautiful cheery flowers on the calendula plants. Beside this bed is getting cleared out. It was very overgrown and now we're starting to see the driveway again. But something interesting that has happened from this is that I get to see how much soil I've built up, which I didn't even realise I had done. When we moved in, this was the level of the ground. And then the garden bed's here, and I would say that is a good 6 or 7 inches of soil added in. Do you see all of these roots? I know exactly what they're from. The invasive Vinca major, which is a plant or a weed which I have struggled with keeping under control here in this area. Like, I'm constantly trying to pull it out, but it just keeps on coming back again. For years I've been trying to grow onions but have never been very successful, and this year I have come the furthest ever where I've actually had the bulbous part fill up. Like, let me just pull this one out and show you. I've grew onions. Look at that. I just gave it a smell. It has a lovely earthy onion flavour. I'm delighted with this. But the thing is, some professional gardeners will not call this a success. Let me explain why. If you look here at the bed, you'll notice that most of the onions have bolted, going to flower to set seed. And because the plants have done this, it means that I won't be able to store these onions. Because these plants have bolted, the energy is being put into producing seed rather than developing the bulbous part at the base. This prevents the onions from maturing, and we need them to be fully mature so that they store well. I've read that if I harvest all of these onions now and try to store them, they'll just end up rotting. So I'm going to have to cook these up soon, or I'll have to preserve them. I'm planning on doing both, so I'll use onions over the next week or so in various dishes, and then I'm thinking with preservation methods, I love caramelized onion. I may dehydrate some of these and blend them up into a powder, because I do use a lot of onion powder to season my dishes. But if I run out of time and I don't get around to those other preserving methods, what I may do is just chop them up into smaller pieces and store them in the freezer. I got around to planting all of the corn in here. Remember, this is where I had the sweet peas that were a fail, so I popped the corn into this patch. Now, the thing with the corn I have in here, I've actually got 2 different varieties. I always hear that you should never plant different varieties of corn close together because they cross-pollinate. But I want to know what actually happens. Like, will these 2 crops, one being a red, the other being a blue, if cross-pollination occurs, does that mean that I will have cobs that have a mix of both of those colours? I'm really curious to see what happens. And the thing is, I don't plan on eating this crop. I want it to be an ornamental crop where I'll use the cobs in my flower arrangements. So, you know, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm just really interested to see how the cobs look at the end of the season. Do you remember last week I harvested the potatoes that were growing in here? Well, I've now replaced the soil, replenished it and added in. I did have 3 of these tiger melons, but there's only 2 here now. I think the 3rd one might have been eaten up by birds or something. Oh well, there's still 2 there, so hopefully one of them will succeed to maturity and produce some delicious sweet melons for us. In this area beside the onions where I had planted the Icelandic poppies, I've pulled all of them out. Oh, there was also Mizuna in here too, and I've replaced the patch with some of these corms which are gladiolus. So I've put them underneath here and hopefully they'll start to sprout very soon. In the flower beds around the apple tree, there's a bit of colour appearing, like here with the statice. There's quite a lot of stems here in this raised bed, and in the 2 raised beds full of snapdragons, some of them are beginning to bloom, but unfortunately the stems themselves are very short. I would say only about 15 centimeters, which is not ideal for my flower arrangements. In fact, I don't know what I'm going to really do with them. Maybe just enjoy them in the garden, or perhaps I could just cut out this center stem and hope that all the side buds and stems themselves grow tall enough for me to be able to use in the bouquets. I've just come over to where the raised garden beds are, and I could smell something very familiar. Look at this, it's the first sweet pea flower, absolutely gorgeous. This flower is a good example of why you should not plant, if possible, all of the same crop in one area. This year I planted sweet peas in 2 spots, one over here and the other out the front. And as we know, the patch out the front was a complete fail, but I have some flowers here. Well, the start of them at least. And that means, although I will not have a whole bunch of these beautiful blooms, I will have a few, which is much better than none. I've also been working on planting out some more of my dahlia tubers. So I've cleared out these 2 beds. This one was full of carrots, and here had some snapdragons. I think it was called crimson, the red flowering ones, but they were swamped out by weeds, so I pulled out what was remaining, and I've just trying to organize where I'm going to place each tuber. Now some of these tubers are really big, like here and over here, but I'm not actually going to divide it into different pieces, because in my experience, yes, you can do that, but I know that with my dahlia tubers I can leave a tuber in the ground for around 3 years or so before I need to divide it up. The zucchini plant has flowers on it, and if you take a look down here, it appears that we have a fruit set. It's really tricky to get in there. See that? I would say now that will be harvested. Maybe by next week we'll be able to harvest that. This is a variety called Gold Max. I've never seen the seeds of this one before, so when I saw the plant itself I was like, oh, snap it up. I'm really curious to see what these taste like. Do you remember the raised bed that I planted out with heaps of lily bulbs? Well, look at them, they've just shot up, and many of them have flower buds on them too, so it won't be long until we're harvesting flowers from this patch. I was just inside looking through my photos so I could add a few to this video, and I realised that I'm behind this year when it comes to the cut flowers. Like, I think it was like around mid-October, late October last year when I was starting to sell them at the local garden centre, and I'm nowhere near that stage. There aren't enough cut flowers in my patch, in my garden, to put together 4 bouquets, let alone 2 of them. I think that's just the way it is. I mean, it's been so dry here. The plants haven't really had any of that natural rainwater to get settled in. And it has been hard keeping on top of watering them, especially with us doing the renovation as well, which has consumed a lot of my time. So I'll get there when I get there. Hopefully in about a month or 2 I'll be able to start selling the flowers again. The season won't be as long for 2023, but that's just the way it is. Thank goodness this isn't my full-time job, a wage that my family relies on. This Brent's Blooms is more like a side hustle, a bit of extra cash that I can reinvest into my garden. So yeah, I'm very lucky in that sense. Anyway, I better head off. Got to make dinner. No idea what I'm making. I'll probably have to go to the shops. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you have a great week and happy gardening.